Alright, now that we got our smartphone here, we're going to tap on Polar Finder app right here. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring up this front screen, and I'm sorry that my camera won't focus really in on that very much and really give you a good crisp image. Maybe that will work. But anyway, this is the app that you get, and it basically it's a pretty good representation of the view you see through your Polar Finder. And here again, you have your little box that you don't really worry about. That's in the southern hemisphere. What you see is the red circle in the middle. That is the transient position of Polaris as it makes its circle. And you see the little line coming off the side there. That is the actual mark of Polaris. And what you do is you flip sideways like that, and this is just a zoomed in version of actually where Polaris is going to be in location to the North Pole. The center dot is your North Pole, celestial North Pole position. Okay, the line coming off of it out here to the side is where Polaris is going to be in transit. And down here you have two tickers that tell you next peak and previous peak. Previous peak is what we're most concerned about on the left side of the screen. And down here at the bottom, another good piece of information is down here, as it gives you your longitude and your latitude settings, and that's a very handy piece of information to have. We are sitting here in North Carolina, 77.04.53 west by 35.35.45 north. So if you want to know where I'm at, punch those in. It'll take you to exactly my coordinates. So gives you your altitude, 25.3, and I'm pretty sure that's probably meters. SMGT time and SMLT time. I'm not really sure what that is because I really haven't had to use it, so that's why I don't know. I don't really find it basically for poos and giggles to figure out what that stuff is if I don't really need to have it. So anyway, back to the important thing, is go into your settings and make sure your settings, you're using your GPS and your run timer is on. In other words, that lets the phone tell the app exactly where you are. Big plus to make sure you have those checked. Alright, because if not, you got to key all the stuff in, and you don't want to do that. That's part of the problem I had Saturday night was using this, was I didn't have this thing set in to use my phone GPS location. So anyway, back to the polar alignment part of it. Center dot is the celestial North Pole that we align our scope to. The star on the outer red ring, that is the position of Polaris. What we do to polar align the mount to Polaris, and this is going to be just as easy, it almost tickles you inside, and it's so easy to do, is you look at the previous peak. You need to know what the previous peak of Polaris is. Previous peak on this is with it due south, is when Polaris was straight down at the 00 mark. Now, in contrast to our scope, our mount, the Polar Finder is set up where the due peak on it is due north. It's basically opposite, which Meade's infinite wisdom, guess what? When you look through the Polar Finder, it's opposite. So they've already done this calculation for you. So what you want to look at is, and I did this once, it worked out really well. I'm going to do it again just to re-verify everything. And this is the method I'm using as of right now until somebody else shows me a better way to do it. This is what we're going with, is the 17-hour 16.53 minutes. Okay, well, 16 minutes, you might as well say 17 minutes. So now we're at 17:17. Okay, that was previous peak of Polaris. Alright, now what does that translate into as far as using your mount? Well, let me show you. We'll set our handy dandy phone down there. We'll back the old television up, get my ugly feet out the way. Alright, so there is the old polar finder. Now, what we want to do, top ring is locked in the home position. That sets the hand box to where your mount is. So that way your hand box knows where your mount is by using this ring as the hand box clock, basically, to know when you start off, you're in the home position, you're set at 0. Alright, unlock your right extension, take your 0 and roll the 0 around to basically 17:20. Alright, I know that's really hard to see. It's very hard to get a good picture of that with it on 17:20. The lines on the black clock are 10 minutes. So 16, 10, 20. Alright, now we just have to ever so ambidextrously reach around here somehow and keep the mount at 17:20 and lock in our clutch, which is not very easy to do with one hand. Please bear with me. Alright, there we go. Alright, we're locked in. And the camera is not going to focus. So we can do it this way. There's your 0. Oh, no, my bad. Amongst all the struggle, my line moved. Alright, there we go. Now, you can see 12 and you can see 1. The long line in the center reading 0. And we're on the second mark past 17, which is 17:20. Okay? So, now, to check ourselves, you can see your mount bar is almost pretty close to almost parallel to the ground. I refresh my screen here and unlock it. Polaris is almost parallel to the ground. When you look at this app, it should be showing the 9 o'clock is actually 18 hours, and we're just a tick before that, which is almost the 20-minute, looks like the 20-minute mark. Sorry, I'm trying to look at the camera and the phone app, and it's just quite not working. So, but anyway, in reference to the app, let me show you what you should see through your viewfinder or your polar finder. You can see that the long tail, which the cross, like I said before, the cross is where the actual polar axis is, and then between the 40 and 60 degree mark is where Polaris is going to be. So the little bubble there is going to line right up on Polaris, and as long as that's lined up on Polaris, because your time scale is correct, by the way that I've learned how to do this, you're going to be aligned to the celestial North Pole, and your sky viewing is going to be much easier to get your scope in a closer position to align. And I don't know about you folks, but that's pretty daggone close. So that's how we do a polar alignment on the Meade LXD75 until I get proved differently, or until I run into an issue where this doesn't work. That's what I'm going with, and it's a pretty simple, easy process. And I'm going to do a quick recap on what we need to do now that we got all the technical BS out of the way, to really, when you go to take this thing out and do a polar alignment to the North Star. I'm going to give you a real quick rundown on exactly what you need to do once you get your polar aligner just centered dead into the head, and once you get everything set up, it's going to be real simple. Alright, 2 minutes. Alright, I'm going to set everything back up to the home position. Make sure we're aligned good. Alright, I'm not going to turn the head, but turn your head with your little mark that you put here in the back, just like that. We're aligned in the home position here. Your polar finder is going to be 0 and 0 aligned. Okay. When you look through your polar scope, the cross is going to be straight down. Okay. Now that we're set up in this position, smartphone, unlock, Polar Finder app, scroll over to the handy dandy deal here, and get your previous peak time, which is 17 hours, 24 minutes, 50 seconds. Okay, we don't really care about the seconds, because it doesn't really matter once you get it, your scope polar aligned, because once you push the go button, you're done. The internal clock on the hand box will keep everything else in time once you do your alignment. So 1725. Alright, 1725. Unlock your right extension clutch. Just leave it drag a little bit. Go over to almost. See, that's why you need to leave your clutch drag just a little bit more. Alright. To 17, almost 1730. I mean, sorry, got a little off focus. I was too busy looking at the time rings here. Let's see if I can get you a better view here. So right there, almost 1725. For demonstration's sakes. Alright, now we look through our polar finder. Looky there. There is the Polaris position. Polaris should be ever so nicely right there in that bubble. Once you tweak your scope around, or your mount, you can get it just right, and you are going to be polar aligned. I'm just curious. I'm going to turn this on and see. Oh yeah, look at that. That's what you see with the red LED on. I bet you wish I would have done that a lot earlier, huh? So you can see that's what you look for. You put Polaris right in that little bubble. As long as your time table is locked in here, Polaris is going to be a snap to align. Now, once you get Polaris aligned, all you do is go back to your home position, align your mark, align your top mark, and make sure your little red LED is turned off, and you are going to be aligned. One of the other things I wanted to show you now that I see how well the red LED lines up here with the camera is this is what it looks like in the home position. Okay. So the thing to remember when you're doing a polar alignment is that the polar aligning process doesn't have actually anything to do with how the scope is calculating its position to the time and the degree and anything else, the date or anything like that. The polar alignment process doesn't have anything to do with that. The polar alignment process aligns this mount to due north. Okay, it doesn't actually have anything to do with the slewing and the movement of the scope. Okay, I kind of stumbled on that. I couldn't quite understand how this thing interpreted the polar alignment to how the scope actually moves. Well, that was the thing that I come across that I finally realized was when this scope is directly in line with the north cylindrical pole that you align by the viewfinder, the scope then says, okay, I rely on your alignment to say that I am in perfect north alignment, and when it slews and you do your at least a minimum 2-star alignment and you center up Vega and whatever star you choose, then that is what tells you exactly how far your degrees are to your north by what the hand box knows. So I just wanted to clarify that in case you're sitting there scratching your head thinking, how does that translate into how it moves the scope? It doesn't. The only thing it does is it makes sure that you're almost dead on an alignment to the north, which is what this scope is based off of. Everything the scope calculates is due to the north alignment. So you can't face the scope dead south and turn it on and slew. It doesn't work. It's got to be pointed north, so you got to know where the north is. And there's another app for that, and I'll show you that when we go over our star sight setup, as far as putting the tripod up, in a pretty easy way to get you very spot on to north once you do the initial, and it'll make your sightseeing a lot easier. So we'll go over that in probably the next video, and hope you enjoy this. Hope it brings in a little more light on the polar alignment process. If you got any questions or any problems, please let me know. I read through the manual, the 83-page manual that come with this, and I didn't really get a whole lot out of that. So this is the kind of the term that I come up with to get a good polar alignment through what I see. And I've only done this once, so we're gonna do it again just as soon as I get a clear sky. I'm gonna get this thing out and redo another polar alignment and see how it does. And we're gonna go over some more setup tips and some more modifications Once we got the mount set up where it's easy to get the mount set up, that's 90% of it. The other part is just putting the scope on, balancing it out, which is nothing, and actually getting to look at stars. So hope you enjoy this, and I hope you please leave some comments and subscribe. There's more videos to come. Thank you.